Welcome back, and in our first story this afternoon, over 6,500 former workers of AngloGold Ashanti Obuasi mine are demanding government releases money from their heritage fund established over 100 years ago. The ex-employees have no idea how much has accrued to the fund set up in 1897 when erstwhile Ashanti goldfields began mining. The agitated former workers say following the closure of the mine in 2014, they initiated process to retrieve the money. They claim to have discovered the fund had been transferred to government by the mine for onward payment to potential beneficiaries. Isaac Asiedu speaks for the aggrieved ex-workers of AGA.
In or around 1897, a heritage fund, therein after referred to as the fund, was instituted by the ex-Wild Ashanti Goldfields Corporation, which was meant to benefit the workforce of the company who would still be in the employment of the company at the time when the company ceases mining operations in Obuasi. The Ashanti Goldfields subsequently became the Ashanti Goldfields Company and was subsequently taken over by AngloGold Ashanti, AGA, Obuasi. In or around 2014, the operations of the company collapsed. It was seized. And the workforce of the company at that time became entitled to benefit from the heritage fund of the company. After the company's operations were closed in 2014, we, the workers, started the processes of claiming our benefit under the said fund, and it got to a point when we had information that the fund had been given to the government by the company for onward payment to 8 beneficiaries. On 26 June 2018, the representatives of the workers met with the President of Ghana, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, at the Jubilee House, Accra, to draw his attention to the fund and had discussions with him about it. We presented the necessary document regarding the fund to him upon the said meeting. The President referred us to the Deputy Chief of Staff, Asenso Boakye, and told him to liaise with the Minister for Mines, for Lands and Natural Resources, the then Peter Amewu, to address the issue. After the said meeting, we have done a number of follow-ups, and our information is that all the necessary processes have been undertaken towards the release of the fund to the beneficiaries. But it is only left with the President to give the green light for the said money to be paid to 8 beneficiaries. Regrettably, however, the President has still not done what is requested for the release of the money to the beneficiaries, to the ex-AngloGold workers who were retrenched in the year 2013 and 2014 November respectively. There are 6,500 workers plus their wives, and plus by average, there are 2 or 3 children. You can make the calculations now. We are not going to allow them to vote in the coming 2020 election. So we are giving the government a very little time, as a matter of urgency, to release this money to 8 beneficiaries. Else, something greater than this is about to happen. Thank you.
We now move to Kumasi, where the Ghana Revenue Authority's task force has discovered that offices and warehouses belonging to Hippo Limited are being occupied by another tenant. Officials are worried because the company owes government taxes to the tune of 1.6 billion Ghana cedis in a period of 3 years. This was revealed after the Compliance Enforcement and Debt Management Unit of GRA embarked on a distress action in Kumasi to retrieve the locked-up funds. Prince Appiah followed the exercise and now reports.
Officials of the Ghana Revenue Authority on Monday embarked on a distress action to retrieve unpaid tax from defaulting institutions. Importer Hippo Limited owes the Revenue Collecting Agency 1.632 billion Ghana cedis for the period of 3 years. The task force, led by the Enforcement and Debt Management Unit of the GRA, was surprised to discover that the office space and warehouse of Hippo Limited in Kumasi were now occupied by a different operator. Principal Revenue Officer at the Compliance Unit, Nathaniel Tete, led the team.
To distress Hippo Limited, who is indebted to Ghana Revenue Authority to the tune of 1.362 billion Ghana cedis. Unfortunately, we came to meet their Kumasi registered office. They vacated the place, moved all the activities from Kumasi to Accra. So we came and we realized that their office has been taken over by another office. And then we traced their known warehouse, which is known to the Ghana Revenue Authority, and we realized that that place too has been taken over by another company. So apparently, Hippo Limited activities in Kumasi has been shifted, all activities has been shifted to Accra. The Commissioner General is very serious for his monies. People are owing, and activities to, all efforts to retrieve those monies is becoming like some people want to back down on their duty to pay the liabilities.
Though all activities of Hippo Limited have been moved to Tema, Mr. Tete revealed that his colleagues in Accra will bring them to book.
They import and the goods are kept in a bonded warehouse. So as and when you take out the goods from the bonded warehouse, you declare what you have taken and paid. Apparently, it is their compliance activity. They should declare what they have taken and pay the relevant duties. But Hippo Limited did not pay. So we expect that taxpayers will be compliant enough because the penalties and interests are sometimes punitive enough.
Prince Appiah reporting.
Now, former Deputy Finance Minister Mona Korte has advised the Finance Minister to stick to his plans to keep spending in line with program targets. She was speaking to Joy Business as we wind down the 2019 business year. Mona Korte believes overspending in non-critical areas will be detrimental to the economy.
In all sincerity, I do wish Ken the very best going into an election year. The pressure is from external, and when I say external, still within Ghana, but from people outside his political group and even from inside as well. So the minister should be careful about pressure. He should keep to his plan and to the goal that he wants to achieve. I've heard him say that he will not overspend. I remember that we also said the same, that we will not overspend in election year. However, I do want to state that most of the overspending that was done in 2016, the run-up to the election time, was on infrastructure, and that is valuable. That is just converting cash into an asset that can be used to bring in more funds. I mean, if you recall the flyover at Circle, that reduced traffic considerably. For transport owners, it meant that they had a higher return on their investment as they plowed back and forth. For the hospitals, it meant that ambulances could move faster to Kolebu. So there's definitely been a great benefit to that expenditure. If this government will spend on infrastructure, and I heard them talk about the year of roads, that would be brilliant. If they even spent on roads and therefore had a slippage, I would not be one to accuse them of anything because they have shown that here is the asset for which there was spending. But if we have expenditure slippages that do not translate into any tangible assets, then that will be a real pity. And I say so because then it's a pity for Ghana, because it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. We hope and pray that they will not overspend on what is not necessary, but if there will be any expenditure at all, that it will be on an asset that the whole country can benefit from. I also hope that even as they go out to raise more money to fulfill the plans they want to do, that they will do that in a prudent manner and not overburden the nation with too much debt, and especially debt servicing, because interest rates sometimes appear as if they are low, but they start to ratchet up, as we saw in some of the other bonds that were issued. And then we find ourselves with very high debt servicing. So I'd plead with the Minister of Finance to be cautious, to stick to his guns, and make sure that he does not allow pressure to push him in a direction that will not be helpful to Ghana.
Let's now do some stories as far as the local currency is concerned. And the Ghana cedi yesterday recorded some marginal stability against the dollar on the interbank market. It ended trading posting 5 cedis, 68 pesos, a slight recovery against the US dollar. What should we make of this? Here's a report from JoyNews.
Local currency has been witnessing some slight recovery in terms of the various quotes that the banks are offering against a dollar. It closed last week trading at around 5 Ghana cedis, 78 pesos. Players in the market are attributing this to the news of the planned Eurobond sale, possibly from the middle of January 2020, and a slowdown in dollar demand by the businesses to cover their imports. For some, the development may back arguments that one of the major drivers of the city's sharp depreciation has to do with sentiments and fears that things could worsen in the coming months, or let's say if businesses have the slightest fear that the Bank of Ghana may not have an improved forex position or reserves by the first quarter of next year, then there might be a good time for them to go out and demand more dollars now when they don't actually need it. Now, compared to the past 2 weeks where we saw the cedi virtually depreciating every day, it has witnessed some slight stability. But the $1 million question that might be begging for some answers is whether this is a sign that the recent troubles that hit the cedi are over. Well, some analysts think that the pressure has just reduced a little bit, and the real test might come up again in the first quarter of 2020 when businesses begin another round of imports to restock for the rest of the year, as well as multinationals that will be remitting profits and dividend to their shareholders outside the country.
We still stay with currency issues, and this time in the sub-region, the West Africa's Monetary Union has agreed with France to rename its CFA France the ECO and cut some of the financial links with Paris. Under the deal, the ECO will remain pegged to the euro, but the African countries in the bloc that uses the CFA have to keep 50% of their reserves in the French treasury, and there will be no longer a French representative on the currency union's board. Ivory Coast President Alassane Ouattara said during a news conference with the French President Emmanuel Macron in Abidjan that this is a historic day for West Africa. And joining us to explore this on the phone is the Executive Director at CATS International, Yao Apia Dumakon. Good afternoon to you, Apia Dumakon, if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you, Norvan.
Yeah, first, let me find out from you, should we take this as good news now that our friends from the French bloc have decided that they will change the CFA to the ECO, which most of us, or I would say the region, have been fighting to, move to?
Yes, I think we will say that it's a good news for our brothers in the Francophone in a sense that it kind of gives them a free way from how they want to handle their fiscal and monetary policies away from what the dictates of what French can do. But also going to tie the currency to the euro still means that there's still going to be the European Central Bank requirements that you need to be able to do if you want to have your currency tied to the euro.
Apia, I wanted to find out from you, we know that most transactions around the world are done using the dollar, but then they decide that they would prefer to tie the new currency, which is the echo, to the euro. Should that be a problem for the English-speaking countries who will later on also join this?
I think, let me start from saying that ECOWAS has a roadmap in rolling out a common currency. In fact, I think the first attempt was in 2000, where some countries met the convergence criteria and others also didn't meet the convergence criteria. In 2020, there is expectation that the whole of the ECOWAS region is going to have a common currency to start, with. But now that the Francophone bloc has gone out ahead of joining the common, now that they have gone ahead with the ECO, which is tied to the euro, now they are going to kind of tie the hands of ECOWAS as a bloc as to which direction that they should go. To the rest of the ECOWAS, the Anglophone countries have to also join the euro, and if they join the ECO, what it means is that we are still surrendering our sovereignty to the colonial masters again. I think that we need to be able to develop our own currency independent from the European Central Bank, the UK Treasuries, or the US Federal Reserve. Because if these countries want to sabotage your economy, there's a way that they can do to destroy your economy. And so I think that African countries need to be able to develop their own, build a very strong central bank, and use our own resources to back our currency instead of tying to the euro or the dollar.
Now, if you say that, we need to be able to develop our local currencies as we have it. We know that it's been difficult for English-speaking countries within the sub-region to meet the convergence criteria so they can be part of this ECO that we talk about. And there are doubts that even if they can do it, it's for this reason that it was agreed that whichever country that is able to meet the convergence criteria going forward, that's from 2020, they should just go ahead and issue that currency. How does this play out at this time that our French brothers have gone ahead of everybody?
I think I also say that France and Francophone Africa have always been trying to see themselves different from the Anglophone. And why would they take this decision on the blind side of ECOWAS? I think it is not the best for the region for them to have taken the lead, but now they are going to tie ECOWAS hands into joining the ECO. Of course, the name ECO is what the ECOWAS wanted to use. Now that the majority bloc in West Africa have decided to go by the ECO, again, ECOWAS hands is tied to also join them. But now it is also true that in the past, when we set up the convergence criteria, one or two countries will meet it and others may not meet it. Now the new rule is that by July next year, whichever country, if it's one single country that has met the criteria, that country will start using the currency and then the others will join. I think that is the way to go. And I don't know how ECOWAS is also going to handle this issue of Francophone, the ECO, ahead of the whole regional bloc going for the common currency. So we wait to see the direction of the ECOWAS bloc on this issue.
All right, thank you very much, Yao Adamako Apia. He is the Executive Director at CATS International, giving us his comments or what he thinks about, the French countries going ahead of the English bloc with regards to issuing of the ECO. Now, before we go, as part of its corporate social responsibility, sole distributor of Samsung product and other brands, Electroland Ghana Limited has partnered a charitable organization to share food to less privileged on the street and also donate some of its branded appliances to people who are in dire need to start their own business. Joy Business was part of the activity of Touching Lives, and my colleague Bismarck Eusa filed this report.
It was a whole day's activity of touching lives on the streets, at homes, and at places of work. Some beneficiaries were the less privileged, the vulnerable in society, and the physically challenged. The Bring Home Happiness Foundation brought smiles to people's faces, with some shedding tears of joy. It felt like a dream come true. The Electroland team made its first stop at the Jawulu Special School, where it donated a refrigerator, a television set, and some food items to the school. Assistant headmaster of the school, Frederick Tete, had this to say.
Other schools are government schools, as I said earlier, and government alone can meet the needs of these individuals. So when we receive such donations from benevolent organizations and other people from this country, it helps us as a school to take very good care of these children.
Meet Georgina Atta, the mother of this young lady who is currently battling an illness which makes walking difficult for her. Madame Georgina explains what she has to go through to fend for the family.
But for the help of the nurse and the pastor's wife, life would have been difficult, especially taking care of my daughter to see her fully recover.
The team also visited a salon to donate some clippers to a gentleman who is trying to make ends meet from a new shop he has opened. Another emotional incident was a visit to a young lady who sells water on the streets. The company gifted her a new refrigerator to ease her pain of walking or sometimes running to sell to customers on the streets. But what does this kind gesture mean for Electroland's market share? Adiza Ibrahim Sadiq is in charge of marketing and public relations.
It means nothing. As a business entity, you owe it to the people. People have bought from you, you are running a business, you owe it to them. We think CSR is a must. We owe it, it's a must for us. We don't need for someone to come and beg us before we rush to their aid. So we do it every other time. Every other time, you know that Electroland Ghana Limited is touching lives.
Meanwhile, Belinda Jatta Foundation, partners to this donation exercise, also had this to say.
So last year I teamed up with NASCO to bring Bell Santa and NASCO Bring Home Happiness. So last year we donated to orphans and widows. And this year we decided to give to the needy and the special kids in the society.
Bismarck Ausa, Joy Business.
And that's it for Marketplace this afternoon. Please go to my Joy Online, especially / the business page. There are a lot of stories that we have there. My name is Norvan Aqua Hayford. Have a very good afternoon.